Welcome to the last section in our series on diet and health. This section is covering nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics is the impact of food and the metabolites of food on gene expression. Now, gene expression is how information is passed from a gene to a protein. Remember, genes are part of our DNA, and genes code for proteins. The proteins carry out cellular functions in our body, so they're kind of the workhorses in our body. And the fact that food can have an impact on gene expression and essentially protein synthesis and their action is pretty incredible. So you think about it, food impacts gene expression, which means that food impacts cellular function on a genetic level because it's impacting protein synthesis, or the creation of proteins, by basically impacting gene expression. Remember, those proteins will act at a cellular level. So this is something that's been covered, that is going to be covered in the controversy in Chapter 11. Okay, for a basic review, remember we have our cell with our nucleus. The nucleus contains 46 chromosomes, and this contains 3 billion genetic letters, give or take a couple. And these are going to, basically, those are the components of our DNA. Now, each section of the DNA is going to have a gene, and the gene is going to code or essentially create proteins. Those proteins are then going to carry out cellular functions. Now, when we think about nutrigenomics, it's not about food changing genes. Whatever genes we have are here to stay. Our DNA is our DNA. That doesn't change. But it's how food influences genes. It activates and turns them on or turns them off. But this isn't with all genes. And I'm going to simplify this. It's more complex than this, but I like to think about genes in two categories. We have our commander genes. These genes are saying, your eyes will be blue, your hair will be brown, and that's it. It doesn't matter what food, environmental factors you're around. That's here to say. I call those commander genes. Then I call them there are the peer pressure genes. And these genes are a little more wishy-washy. They're influenced by their surrounding environment, meaning that your diet or your environmental factors can actually influence these genes. So these are the genes we're talking about with the nutrigenomics. They can be influenced, they can be activated, turned on, or turned off. Now, the way this works is when a nutrient comes into the body, it will either activate gene expression or silence it. And that's generally the terminology they use. Now, this means, remember, gene expression is that gene coding for a protein or creating a protein that can carry out some cellular function. So that means if the gene is activated, the nutrient activates gene expression, protein synthesis or protein creation is increased. And that's going to cause cellular changes or changes in cellular function. And that will either contribute to disease progression or prevention. Now, it all depends on what gene it is, what protein it codes for, etc. And the opposite is true. A nutrient might silence a gene, meaning there's less of that protein, and that also changes the cellular function. And again, depending on what gene it is and what nutrient it is and what protein it codes for, disease will either progress or be prevented. Again, this isn't one nutrient is going to cause something or prevent something, a disease, a chronic disease. Remember, there are many contributing factors, so it's almost as if this effect is going to be cumulative. And what I want you to know is just the definition of nutrigenomics, the general concept of how this works and how powerful it is to think about our food that we are eating is changing our cellular functions at a genetic level. That's all I'm going to talk about for this section, and this is going to be the end of our series on diet